Today's witness is called Ezri. He's in his 70s, of medium height but stooped and slight, pale and with thin white hair, a sparse beard, a trusting, tentative expression, slow of speech. He will tell us of earth tremors and darkness at noon, and of a curtain tearing and a great shout. I have very few visitors and am somewhat out of practice in the matter of conversation. You must bear with me. I have a great nephew, Jonathan, of whom I'm very fond. He tries to shock me with the length of his hair and his highly coloured and unorthodox clothes, and succeeds, but I like him very much. He loves to tell me of the full, eventful life he lives, how he has seen more in 17 years than I have in 70. He often asks me whether I've felt I've missed a lot by spending my life in the great temple, whether I feel I should have mixed more in what he calls the life outside the walls, the life of Jerusalem. Well, perhaps, although I must admit I was never attracted to the life outside. I'm rather shy and of a somewhat weak and timid nature. My father understood me very well and did not suggest that I follow any profession other than his own, a servant of the temple. My two elder brothers, alas, both dead, were strong men, full of ambition and drive, and wanted nothing of the temple. My father did not complain. One son to follow him was enough, as he followed his father, and his father too. It is difficult to find words to answer Jonathan, although he is well brought and listens with respect. But you know, to live and work in the temple is not to be imprisoned. It is to live among beauty and be close to God. Great Herod did many terrible things, but he also rebuilt the temple, and he knew about beauty. His sons were not to be compared, or the Roman procurators, Gratus, Pilate, any of them. They didn't care about the temple. And we are not so shut off, so cloistered. It is not a monastery. It is a wonder of the world, to which hundreds of thousands of people come each year. The world outside comes in. Once it came in a way that changed my life. Not my way of life, my mind. I still serve, although I do less because I am old, but my mind is in some way changed. I don't often speak of it, but Pontius Pilate was recalled to Rome 2 weeks ago and will not return, and my thoughts go back. It doesn't seem like 7 years ago, Passover time. I think it used to be my favourite time of the year, until that year. So much trouble that year. We seemed to hear of nothing but the Galilean, the carpenter, Jesus of Nazareth. High priest Caiaphas seemed to be in a temper the whole time. On the Sabbath, the procession of the Sanhedrin and elders seemed to be full of worried, tense faces. The carpenter was a great disturbance. He seemed to have no fear. When he and his followers overturned all the money changers' stalls at that time, there was nearly a riot. I never met him and never saw him. I would have liked to, I think. Many of his sayings and the way he put things in his teaching were collected by one of my colleagues who is a scholar with a great regard for simplicity. In his opinion, the Galilean had a great gift, both for simplicity and for picturesque parable. Certainly he is seen by his words to be a simple and honest man. Yes, I would like to have known him. But it was quite forbidden for us of the inner courts to attend any outside meetings. Like my father before me, I was what is called a servant of the inner courts. The inner courts surround the holy place, the Holy of Holies, where no man enters. We who serve the inner courts are all Levite, all of the direct line of Aaron, brother of great Moses. As I said, I do very little these days. I am neither so strong nor, to be honest, so reliable. I forget things or do them twice. 7 years ago, before that Passover, I did more. I had various duties, including the care of the gold and silver, lamps and ornaments. But my work stopped at the great curtain that enclosed and covered the entrance to the Holy of Holies. I spent hours looking at that curtain. It was gorgeous. The work of 100 women. My late wife was one. It was blue and purple and crimson, with a design of angels and cherubims in the most exquisite embroidery. Gorgeous, but strong also. Made to conceal and to last. The finest linen, lined and thickened, edged and strengthened, it hung on golden rings from a great rail. It was lit from above with great clarity by daylight, the blue sky and the sunshine of Israel. Yet 7 years ago, on the first day of Passover, at noon, the blue sky turned black and the sun went out. At a time of the year when the sun is always there, it suddenly wasn't. An awful stillness began, a terrible feeling of silence, of foreboding. I realized that I'd carried the feeling within me since I'd woken up that morning. As the darkness increased, I knew why. I knew that up on the hill of the skull, on Golgotha, Jesus was on the cross. Everyone knew. I carried on with my work. It got darker. Too dark to work. I sat and looked at my beloved curtain, which seemed to glow in the gloom. The time passed. At about 3 o'clock, the closeness and silence became almost unbearable, and then a terrifying rumbling and roaring began deep in the ground, which began to shake and move. Then there was thunder and lightning. I could hear things falling and people screaming. I think I heard a great shout by one voice. I was full of terror. As I staggered to my feet, there was a sudden pause, a hush, and then the curtain tore from top to bottom, a violent, dreadful destruction, full of a sort of anger, of despair. I was told later there was no damage either to the walls at the side of the curtain or to the great rail it hung from. I was told also that at 3 o'clock Jesus shouted and died.